Hey guys, can you hear me now? Yeah, we had a bit of a technical problem. Please confirm once you start hearing me. Salam everyone, can you hear me properly? Okay, I guess so. Okay. Good, excellent. All right, perfect. Good evening. How are you all? Thank you so much for confirming. We've had a bit of a problem with the previous link. The line was on and off. But let's wait for a bit more numbers and then we can start. Here we go. Yeah, that's picking up again. Excellent. Cool. More people are with us now. Good. Let's reach the same numbers that we had before and we will start this video. Okay. So thank you so much for everyone who was waiting for me, and sorry about the technical issue we had. Sometimes with live streams you have a bit of an on and off with connection and with audio problems. I hope you're all doing well. As I advised previously, I'm doing these live streams on a nightly basis every night, 10 p.m. GMT for you. So I can obviously discuss some of the latest developments and updates with you and open the space for the subscribers and members of this channel to join in, to share their thoughts and ask any questions. I'm going to start off with, before I start going into the comments, your comments and your questions, with the main subject that I want to talk about tonight, which is revolving around 3 warnings from 3 previous intel and military people in Israel, top figures who have a very rich history in Israeli intelligence and in the military regarding what's going on. Obviously, I spoke about in my video that I posted earlier on about the increased tension in Israel and the statements that they're making against Egypt. Now, not everyone is happy about that. And this video is about those who are not happy and are sending deep warning signs about Israel. Now, you need to remember one thing. The people that I'm going to be talking about are from the military intelligence community. Their tone is lighter than people who are analysts or professors, for example, in Israel. I mentioned some of them in my previous videos. People who were very pessimistic when it comes to Israel, who said that the Israeli state dream has ended. But it's important to speak about the people who are not agreeing with Netanyahu from the Israeli military community and intelligence community, because obviously some of them are very concerned about what their government is doing. It's not only the people in the cabinet, it's not only Gallant, it's not only these people who are close to him, it's people who have a very rich history, including previous head of the Mossad, who I will reach, and who has a very bad projection if this continues. I'm going to start off with a gentleman named Giora Island. Giora Island had, Ma'arif had an interview with him. And he basically made some dangerous statements regarding Israel and what's happening. He said that Netanyahu's assertion that a total victory must be reached is problematic. He said that the consequences could be very dangerous. Now, this guy, he was a retired major general of the Israel Defense Forces and a former head of the Israeli National Security Council. According to him, the statements that Netanyahu is making, that we must not stop until we reach complete victory in Gaza, may prove to be problematic, because it is a concept whose content has not been clarified to the military level and whose meaning may lead to a pious victory. In his words, one whose price is greater than its achievements. He also added that if you want total victory in Gaza, you might be talking about continuing this war for another year. As long as the war in Gaza continues, there will be no order in Lebanon. Israel will not be able to prolong the situation in the north indefinitely and will be forced to launch an all-out war against Hezbollah. And this is becoming clearer and clearer by the day. He, in accordance to him, he's saying perhaps the more correct thing is to reach 80 or 90% of the definition complete victory because of the benefits simply. And he said if we reach victory by the definitions of like Netanyahu, we are completely lost. That's the first person who I wanted to speak about. The second person is called Amos Gilad. Even richer history. He had a radio show with 103 FM, a very famous radio station in Israel. He, Major General Amos Gilad, he is the now Executive Director of the Institute for Policy and Strategy, IPS in short, and Chairman of the annual Herzliya Conference Series, Reichman University. He also led a distinguished career for more than 3 decades in the IDF and in the defense establishment. And his last position was the Director of Policy and Political Military Affairs at the Ministry of Defense. This guy is even more pessimistic. He said about the total victory, again, of Benjamin Netanyahu, and all of these interviews are very recent. He said about Netanyahu's claims for a total victory, I don't know what he means in his words. It doesn't seem connected to reality. If he wants to connect with victory, he must have a strategy of how to get out of it. The Americans are offering us an amazing package deal. Clearly a package that we're not hearing much, but we heard about a deal with Saudi Arabia potentially. He continues, I don't know how long it will be in effect, so clearly it's not going to be there on the table for much longer, in which we will connect with the central axis of the Arab countries led by the US. He continued to say, we will also gain economic prosperity, military as well, and he added, eventually, I'm going to talk about the main things that he spoke about. He said we need to let the Palestinians in, as in the areas they were evacuated from or expelled from. Otherwise, we are condemned to the direct occupation of Gaza, which is a disaster-stricken area, both health-wise, economically, and militarily. And we also in the West Bank are doing everything to dismantle all of these systems. It will cost us a high price. There are competing strategies and elements of Ben Gvir's unbelievable statements, which do not even reprimand him, who spits in the face of the one who saved us. Instead, that's in reference to the United States, spitting in the face of the United States, Ben Gvir. Instead, what does he want to do? Who will we rely on? Him, he is asking. And he continued to criticize their control over the West Bank and Ben Gvir and Smotrich. He is saying that the main thing needs to be focusing on getting the Israeli prisoners, who we already neglected in accordance to him. And he's saying, what do you want to do now? Not return them alive? Another neglect? He added that with regards to Benjamin Netanyahu also, if he really doesn't care, or if he is going on with this operation at the expense of the lives of the Israeli soldiers, then he has to say it publicly, that we're still going ahead even if people get killed. This is the main thing that he said. Now, with regards to the last person, this is the head of the Mossad. The head of the Mossad, Tamir Prado, he made multiple statements previously before this war. He's one of very few people in the military and intelligence community who called the Israeli regime in the West Bank apartheid. This is the previous head of the Mossad. He said what Israel's doing in the West Bank is apartheid. He also, this guy encouraged the participation of Palestinian citizens of Israel in the Israeli government, something he encourages. He has a more broader approach when it comes to this. And he even compared what Israel's doing, Benjamin Netanyahu particularly collaborating with the extreme far right in Israel, similar to the KKK. Imagine that. That's the previous head of the Mossad. The most important thing that he said, and I spoke about a part of this previously, is that Sinwar is holding the Israeli prisoners. He will decide when to release them and under which conditions. If we end the war with 136 or so Ron Arad, who's an Israeli ex-pilot who was kidnapped and his fate is unknown, it's an ongoing problem, the state of Israel will lose the war for the first time since its inception. This is what he's saying. And with regards to the statement, if Netanyahu has decided to give up the abductees and accept them in closets, let him say so openly to the public. He is the one who said that, excuse me, not the previous one. It was Tamir Prado who said this statement from his quotes. And another very important thing that he said with regards to this is that Israel, he said, he quoted Benjamin Netanyahu saying that Israel does not need a strategy of the war and does not need to decide what will happen the day after. Whoever runs a country in such a way, according to him, the end, in his words, the previous head of the Mossad, the end of this country is doomed. So these were the main three people from the military and intelligence community who I wanted to talk about, because obviously we have all of these statements now from the Israeli government going and pushing against Egypt, pushing things too far, obviously killing so many Israeli prisoners, but clearly many people in the Israeli military intelligence community, they see things differently than Benjamin Netanyahu. And you're talking about people who have experience. They know the Arab world, they know the Muslim world, they know how things are in the street, and they can see things beyond, you know, your small little career interests, such as Benjamin Netanyahu and his crew, and their anticipation, what they're expecting for Israel based on these statements and other statements as well, are not looking very well. And it doesn't just end with the people who were previously active, whether in the Israeli military and the Israeli Mossad. We're also talking about the current head of the Mossad, who's supposed to be very close to Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, the office of the Mossad is tied with the office of the Israeli Prime Minister directly. He previously was banning the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, from meeting him. He wanted him under his hand, but clearly the levels of distrust are getting more intense, because when they sent the delegation to Cairo to follow up on the negotiations, he sent one of his secretaries with the Mossad head. Imagine how much he doesn't trust the current Mossad head. Why would you need your secretary with a state official with such an important position, the head of the Mossad? You know, he's supposed to rely on these people and give them some sort of freedom of movement, of action, for them to use their skills and expertise in their field and their connections to try and reach a deal. The problem with Benjamin Netanyahu is he is only looking at his solution and his far-right allies in the government, and what he's doing in effect is stunting the potential of the Israeli, even secret intelligence services, from potentially reaching a deal with Egypt, Qatar, Hamas, and obviously with the United States of America. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start opening the options for all of you to start participating. I'll start taking comments and questions from you, and I'll do my best to answer all of them where possible. If you wouldn't mind, if you see someone commenting, simply ignore them. That's the best thing. If anyone is mentioning anything irrelevant to this conversation, please just simply ignore them and focus on the conversation so we can start talking. I'll get your comments and also your questions. Okay, let's start from the beginning. Obviously, greetings for everyone who's saying Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam. Good evening from wherever you are. Excuse me. Couple of okay. All right. Christina Hines, first question. Why can't an international military force come into Gaza to protect the Palestinians? Interesting question. Because most of, obviously, international forces are, Western international forces, siding with Israel. In terms of the Arab world, you know, we spoke about it many times. They have their own, obviously, interests. They have their own calculations when it comes to this. And they will most likely won't interfere unless they're directly threatened. And this is not something new. This is something that has been repeated many times. It's not right, obviously, because you will see, obviously, the West mainly. I mean, Western countries, they will be very quick to act in countries that they don't like, as long as the country, you know, they don't like it, you know. So most, like the US, for example, look at what they did in Latin America. Over 2 dozens of countries in Latin America, military coups, they'll support drug cartels in many cases, overthrow democratically elected governments. That's from Latin America. Come to Africa, look what European countries did in Africa. Now slowly they're getting liberated, you know, and we're talking about potential unifications with some countries, economic ties as well, which is good. And look at the Middle East. Look at the Middle East, look at North Africa, and what they do. However, with Israel, it's their little baby. They share the same values with Israel, the values of supremacy, the inhumanity. They battle democracy wherever possible, you know. We constantly hear about people banging on about democracy. They fight democracy. They fight democracy in the Arab Muslim world. Like, take Gaza, for example. You have a democratically elected government. As soon as the people democratically elected a government, they went against them. Why? Because they don't like them. Why do they not like them? Because they simply don't want to comply with what they want to ask them from. Things against their national rights, national integrity, independent choice. They don't want to. But they will consider, ally with, and they will deal with, acknowledge the governments that are their puppets, people who follow their orders, do as they're told, because they have this mentality of a slave and a master. The slavery mentality didn't finish yet. We still live in an era where people think they're more superior. They're of a more worldly class race, something that's called racism, Islamophobia, of course, as well. They think they're above people, and they think they're better than them, and they can control them. So Israel represents that neo-colonial European sentiment in Palestine, in the Middle East, and they want to keep it there for as long as possible. You know, we speak about Israel being a genocidal satanic death cult. The governments in Britain, the governments in the United States, they're an extension of this death cult. It's as simple as that. And I mean, look at this, for example, the recent report that we had from the Middle East Eye about the MI5. MI5. Basically, there's a Palestinian British citizen in Gaza with his wife, 3 children. One of them is 1 year old and is injured and needs medical care. The Foreign Office won't help him get out of Gaza under this genocide, under this bombardment, when their life is at risk and every second, supporting the country that's doing it. The Foreign Office won't help him get out. Same likewise with many others as well. And he gets a message from the MI5 telling him, if you want us to help you get out, you need to be an informant for us. Imagine how morally deprived and evil these people are. Morally deprived, evil people running these governments and organizations. This is the least you can say about them. You have people going through catastrophe and they're supporting those committing this catastrophe. Pure evil. There's nothing else you can explain it. People are dying in the streets. 27,000 killed, brutally killed. 12,000 children. They shoot them and they brag about it. 90% of the population is displaced. 60% of the infrastructure is gone. No healthcare, hardly any food, any aid. Massive genocide live in front of everyone. Yet, these countries, these governments, in this instance, the MI5, capitalizing on people's misery to try and blackmail them. Imagine the level of deprivation and immorality of what we're talking about here. It's beyond comprehension, but it exists, and people need to know that. And this man, he has someone representing him here in the UK, and he stayed anonymous so he can protect his case, basically. But he's still in Gaza with his wife, 3 young children. One of them is 1 year old, injured, very bad medical condition, so he might die. So this is what we're dealing with here. But people need to know it, and we will keep saying these things. Kate, why is Egypt only putting 40 out of 400 tanks? They have way more than 40 tanks in Sinai. If you're talking about just close to the Rafah border, look, Egypt is preparing for a war. Let no one be delusional here. Egypt is preparing for a war with Israel, and Israel is constantly pushing for a war. Israel is crossing every red line possible and pushing this whole region into a total explosion just to save this satanic death cult. That's what they're doing. And if they push it too far, it will reach a war with Egypt, and it will look really bad on Israel. That's all I can tell you. I see some of you mentioning stuff about comments and moderation. I constantly have to repeat this. Obviously, you need to be careful with the words you use on YouTube for your comments to pass. Sometimes people flag things up. But what I would advise you to do is, if you see people from the other side trying to put something or spam or whatever, or spew venom, report them immediately, all of you. Mass report, so these people can be completely removed. And obviously, whenever you want to make a comment or express yourself, try and avoid any language that might be deemed offensive or anything, because like I constantly repeat, and I have here on my community guideline, I hope you can see it, to remain respectful and obviously get your message across, because we can always bring about our message without using any derogatory language. Mimi sent me a message in Arabic that America described Netanyahu as an a-hole, basically. And do you think the war would stop? Look, Biden said he's an a-hole, basically. And he said he's a really bad man. But when it comes to this, actions speak louder than words. There are actions, but not to the level that is required. So the US, obviously, they took their aircraft carrying warships. That was a sign for Israel that we're not here to protect you. That's number one. Why did they take it in the middle of the war? It was supposed to deter Hezbollah, right? They took it away. They reduced the level of military support, but they're still supporting. So as long as any support is going and this genocide is going, there's a problem. Um, and it doesn't look like anyone is stopping them. I mean, the only thing that's stopping them physically from accomplishing what they want in Gaza is a few things. Firstly, the resilience of the Palestinian people in Gaza, then the Palestinian armed resistance, then the lack of cooperation from Egypt when it comes to expelling them, then the international mounting pressure, including things with the ICJ on certain levels, not with the level of enforcement on Israel to stop the genocide, but on a level where other people are becoming more fearful to deal with Israel because it's making itself untenable. It has international court rulings against it. Other countries will think, I don't want to be complicit with this state that commits genocide. All of these things help, and obviously the ongoing activism and awareness. Esdras Santos, thank you very much for your super thanks. I really appreciate it. Please all be safe, respect, and love from Russia. Much love back, and from everyone contacting us from and joining us from all across the world. And we have Canada too. Okay. Neek Master, a question: have you seen the footage of the IOF diver force from a tunnel showing an alleged Yahya Sinwar? Rumors that was from 5 months ago, and some are saying it isn't even him. Thoughts? Number one, pathological liars. That's number one. Israel is a pathological liar. They're compulsory liars. So anything, they say take it with a pinch of salt, take it with a bloody bowl of salt and a can of spicy pepper, whatever they say. Everything they say is a lie unless proven otherwise. So when they release an image of Yahya Sinwar, for example, we don't know when it was, we don't know if it's him, we don't know if it's Ed, we don't know anything. We don't know anything. These people are pathological liars, and they are blatant with their lies. They constantly publish their lies in front of everyone. They've been caught red-handed many times, right, by even international news networks. Some of their own soldiers showed them lying, acting as if they're getting, Palestinian fighters, and it was IOF soldiers. So I wouldn't believe them, obviously. Okay, let's go to the other questions. Someone is saying about Ehud Olmert. Let me just have a look quickly. He implied threat was necessary, and that it seems like he doesn't believe the invasion will happen. Look, I mean, Ehud Olmert, he has experience in Gaza. However, it doesn't matter what these people are saying at the moment. It seems like no one is able to control what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu is really doing whatever the hell he wants. He is ignoring people from the, from the military. He's ignoring people with. He's ignoring people from the intelligence community. He's ignoring people who were there previously working in the Mossad or whatever. He's ignoring all of these people. So Ehud Olmert, he might have this idea, but I'm not sure how accurate he is with his description and assumption, obviously. Wise guy, who do you think is worse, Sharon or Netanyahu? Well, I think both of them are just as bad, but the problem is, I mean, both of them are really bad, but Sharon used to take certain steps that Benjamin Netanyahu wouldn't really dare take, if that makes sense. It's really difficult for Benjamin Netanyahu to take any steps that Sharon took. Yes, thank you so much. No problem. Thank you, no problem at all. So Sharon, like when he withdrew from Gaza, he received a lot of criticism, and he was closely allied. It was the same party with Benjamin Netanyahu. But Benjamin Netanyahu does what exactly Benjamin Netanyahu wants to do, really. Will Turkey attack if they invade the Rafah border? That's from Happy Records. I don't think they will. I mean, Turkey, they haven't done anything ever since really many things happened in Gaza. I think the only time Turkey will get involved if something massive happens, regional escalation, or if they get attacked directly. Eileen Strange, do you think any way peace deal can happen that would get rid of the Oslo Accord that the rules of a Palestine state would have to provide security forces to Israel? Look, the prospect of having a peace treaty now, it is not looking likely, because you have the people in Israel, they are themselves saying that we will not allow a Palestinian state. Why are they saying that? Why are they saying that they won't allow Palestinians? Because they don't want it. So the talk is realistic, if that makes sense. Finger Manat 1234, can we have your breakdown on the recent hostage situation? Well, Israel said that they rescued two, and we don't have any progress when it comes to the deal. We don't have any progress when it comes to the deal. Unfortunately, Israel rejected most of the amendments that were made by Hamas. They're still talking, but it doesn't look like there's going to be any development soon. Joseph, how much are the West affecting the situation? Can you maybe explain why we persist in interfering? It's because of obviously the connection, the historical connection of Israel with Western countries. The United States is obviously the main contributor. Men Gesein, thank you so much for your super thanks. I really appreciate it. So they're historically connected with each other, and they're their last colony in the Middle East. And obviously, they share a lot of the ideology. They have their interests, their financial interests, their political interests, and they want to keep the Middle East divided. Israel acts as a great player to them. That's why they are so keen on having Israel there, despite the fact that they have no roots to this land and they took it by force. Don't you think they know how Israel took the land? They know what's happening, yet they're complicit with everything that they do. Let me go into the other question. Would Trump have made any difference compared to Biden? That's from Abdulrahman Saeed. Well, look, I don't think so. I mean, Daniela, thank you so much for your super. I really appreciate it. I don't think he'll make a big difference because, I mean, when he was there, he made lots of controversial stuff. The only difference is he doesn't like Benjamin Netanyahu more than Biden doesn't like Benjamin Netanyahu. And Donald Trump is erratic. So he can take all of a sudden something, irrational like that, non-typical establishment US step. That might be surprising. However, building on that hope is very difficult, particularly because he relies heavily on the evangelicals who support Israel. Although we have seen a decrease, a shift in the evangelical support for Israel. We've seen a massive shift. And but still, to this day, he relies heavily on them. Khalid Razak, do Israeli people even have a clue about their military losses in Gaza? Don't they access social media? Look, some of them do, and they know the censorship. But it's so strong, the level of censorship, that many are delusional to their losses and even to the Palestinian losses in Gaza. Like some people are surprised when they tell you that, Palestinian civilians die. They even mock Palestinians for like creating, these Hollywood movies of them getting killed. Imagine that. So they're delusional in many ways, and there's a really, really harsh censorship when it comes to this. Dawa help normalization finished? It would really depend on how this ends. If it ends with certain Lisa, thank you so much for your super. I really appreciate it. If it ends with a potential deal, then maybe. But again, that deal would have to reach a stage of having a state, according to Saudi Arabia, who is the main kind of country that Israel is interested in having a peace treaty with. So, but from how it's looking now, it's not looking like we're getting there. Okay, no more questions. So let's end it here, guys. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. We'll hopefully have another one tomorrow night, similar time. And I'm gonna advise you with the topic for tomorrow during the day at some point. And we will hopefully see you soon in the next video. Thank you for staying with me and take care. Bye.